we made the wrong assumption. Because of those justice hammers, we wrongly assumed the order things happened.
The culprit intentionally numbered the weapons, and had them increase in size as well, so we could assume the incidents occurred according to the hammer's numbers.
Furthermore, if we assume Ishimaru was murdered just after 6, then nobody has an alibi for his murder. Reason being, he was murdered before we met up in the cafeteria.
Indeed, that is the case for Ishimaru's murder. But everyone has an alibi for the time Yamada was murdered.
Yeah. When Yamada was killed. When we heard Yamada scream from the infirmary, everyone but Hagakure and Kirigiri were together. After that, we rushed down to the infirmary and saw Yamada's corpse.
It's true. We've got alibis.
I've got it! The culprit recorded the scream with the tape recorder and played it back later, dude!
And where's this tape recorder?
Beats the hell out of me.
Don't just spew anything that comes to mind!
In any event, when we heard Yamada scream, we all clearly had alibis, which means nobody who was there with us could have killed Yamada.
And not just Yamada's murder either. The subsequent disappearance of the corpses is the same. When Yamada's corpse disappeared from the infirmary, Asahina and I were together in the restroom, and everyone else was in the physics prep room, yes? And it was the same when Ishimaru's corpse disappeared from the prep room. At that time, we were all gathered in the infirmary because of the disappearance of Yamada's corpse.
And I was all by myself, sleeping like a baby in the physics prep room.
Then, couldn't Genocider have moved Ish's corpse?
Even if she could have moved Ishimaru's corpse, she couldn't have moved Yamada's from the infirmary. When Yamada's corpse went missing, she was still unconscious in the prep room.
Of course, I didn't do either of them anyway.
In short, none of us are capable of having committed Yamada's murder or relocating the corpses. Looking at it another way, only Hagakure or Kirigiri, who were unaccounted for, could have done it.
What now, Kirigiri?
This conversation's just going in circles, trying to decide who done it. So rather than who did it, how about we try thinking about how they did it? I believe the method by which Yamada's corpse was moved is of particular importance.
Yeah, I agree. As much as I searched, I can never find an answer for how his body was moved. And what's more, according to Celes,
Yes, but he was only out of our sight for a minute.
the culprit moved Yamada's body in the span of 1 minute?
That would be the case.
Apparently, his body disappeared in the span of a single minute, while Celes and Asahina were away. But to move a body that large from the first floor to the art storage room on the 3rd floor...
No matter how you look at it, that just ain't possible, dude.
And what if I said there was a way to make that impossible feat possible?
What? How?
Have the corpse move itself.
Huh?
You mean the corpse can move on its own?
Another ghost?
We're not talking about the supernatural. What the woman's trying to say is... there's a possibility that Yamada, whom we believe to be dead, was actually alive.
He was alive!
So Yamada was not transported from the infirmary, but moved himself with his own 2 legs?
Then, what does that make the corpse we saw in the infirmary?
That was him pretending to be dead.
That's not possible.
Is it really possible that Yamada was actually alive?
Is it possible that when Yamada was first found in the infirmary, he was alive?
No, that couldn't be. Yamada was, without a doubt, dead.
How can you be so sure?
You heard the corpse discovery announcement too. That announcement was made because we discovered Yamada's corpse. What else could it have been?
Is that really so? Perhaps someone else's corpse triggered that announcement.
At that time, only one corpse discovery announcement was made.
Is it possible that when Yamada was first found in the infirmary, he was alive?
No, that couldn't be. Yamada was, without a doubt, dead.
How can you be so sure?
You heard the corpse discovery announcement too. That announcement was made because we discovered...
And that's where you're wrong! Was that corpse discovery announcement actually triggered by the discovery of Yamada's corpse?
Of course it was. We heard the announcement immediately after finding Yamada's corpse.
But the people who found Ishimaru's corpse experienced the same thing.
He's exactly right. We heard that announcement immediately upon discovering Ishimaru's corpse.
What I'm saying is, aren't we confusing Ishimaru's corpse discovery announcement for Yamada's corpse discovery announcement?
Had 2 corpses been discovered, there should have been 2 announcements.
I imagine Monokuma was just being lazy and combined them both into a single announcement.
What do you have to say to that?
I don't want to step on anyone's toes, so I can't go into much detail. But I'll tell you this. A corpse discovery announcement only occurs when 3 or more humans first discover a dead body.
That doesn't tell us anything, dude. We want to know if you were lazing out on us.
No, that was more than enough.
Huh?
He said it only happens when we first discover a dead body, which means no matter how many times we discover the same body, multiple announcements won't be made. That being so, what triggered that corpse discovery announcement?
That one? Which one?
Over the course of the day, we heard the corpse discovery announcement made twice. There were 2 corpse discovery announcements. The first one had happened when we discovered both the bodies in the infirmary and the prep room. And then, the second one... That's it! The second corpse discovery announcement was made when we rediscovered the bodies in the storage room.
We got a corpse here! We'll be holding a class trial pretty soon.
At the time, I didn't pay the announcement much mind. But doesn't that contradict what Monokuma told us?
If they're only made the first time a body is found, we wouldn't have heard one when we rediscovered them.
Then, of course, it has to be what we thought was us rediscovering the corpse was, in reality, discovering one of them for the first time.
Put simply, when Yamada was first found in the infirmary, he was not yet dead. And we discovered his corpse, in the true sense of the word, in the art storage room.
But that's not all. There's even more evidence suggesting Yamada was still alive in the infirmary.
Evidence? I know all about that. He was good at playing dead. That's all the evidence you need.
I would hardly call something so insignificant evidence. As I expected, there exists no evidence that he was actually alive.
In that case, let's go back over, once more, the condition Yamada's body was in. I'm certain it'll all be clear to you then, whether he was alive or dead.
I doubt anything will come of it.
There is definitely evidence that Yamada was alive. I just need to show that to everyone else.
We first discovered Yamada's corpse in the infirmary. But while Celes and I were in the restroom, his body disappeared, which was really weird.
And it was next we discovered in the art storage room.
Before he was moved and after he was moved, aside from his orientation, nothing changed about his body.
That contradicts this! There was a blatant difference between the Yamada in the infirmary and the Yamada in the art storage room. His glasses. And that should be more than enough evidence to show that Yamada was playing dead in the infirmary.
Would you mind explaining yourself?
When we first found Yamada's body in the infirmary, his glasses were covered in blood. But when we found him in the art storage room, his glasses were clean. Furthermore, I found something in the infirmary's trash can I believe was used to wipe off the blood. The evidence I need is the thing I found in the infirmary's trash can. This is it! I found a glasses cloth in the infirmary's trash can. From the bloodstain here on the cloth, we can deduce that this glasses cloth was used to wipe the blood off Yamada's glasses. On top of that, the character on this cloth is the same as the one on that digital camera. See? The digital camera Yamada brought in with him.
Princess Buko from Heretical Angel's Super Squishy Princess, right?
I can't imagine anyone other than Yamada who would have had a glass cloth like this.
The only people here who wear glasses are...
I wouldn't be caught dead with that plebeian filth.
That tissue's all I need to clean my glasses.
Then there's no doubt about it. This glasses cloth belonged to Yamada.
I see. So where does that put us, dude?
What it means is that Yamada's glasses cloth was used to clean the blood off his glasses.
But even so, that doesn't necessarily mean he did it himself.
Think about it a second. What benefit is a clean pair of glasses except to the person wearing them?
You make a fair point.
So Yams really did do it himself.
In which case, that means Yamada was still alive when he was found in the infirmary. And, after using his own glasses cloth to wipe the blood from his own glasses, he left the room on his own 2 legs. The formerly impossible task of moving Yamada's corpse doesn't seem so implausible anymore, does it?
But if he was just playing dead in the infirmary, then where did all that blood come from? Could it have been paint or something?
The infirmary's refrigerator is stocked with blood for transfusions. In all likelihood, that's what he used. Furthermore, if Yamada was alive at the time, we can also explain the disappearance of Ishimaru's corpse. It's obvious now who moved his corpse.
The one who moved Ishimaru's corpse. Hifumi Yamada. Yamada did it, didn't he?
So while we were all gathered in the infirmary, he was moving Ishimaru from the physics prep room.
If that's the case, we can also explain why the art storage room's door was locked.
The storage room was locked?
After the 2 guys' bodies disappeared, we all went searching for them, right? Well, me and Sakura went straight to the art room then, and the door to the storage room was locked.
On top of that, the door's lock is such that it can only be set from inside the storage room. In other words, when Asahina and Oogami were in the art room, someone else was inside the storage room.
Which would mean that was Yamada, just after he finished transporting Ishimaru's body.
By faking his death, Yamada was able to slip under the radar and bring Ishimaru to the storage room, meaning he wasn't simply a victim in this incident, but a perpetrator.
But to think one of the victims would himself be involved in the crime.
No way! I don't believe it!
If it's that hard to believe, then I could show you another piece of evidence.
There's still more, dude?
Yes. The most conclusive evidence of Yamada's involvement has yet to make an appearance. You know what that is, don't you, Naegi? The item Yamada stole from the victim, Ishimaru.
The item Yamada stole from Ishimaru? Wait, does she mean... the note! You're talking about the note Yamada had hidden on himself, aren't you, Kirigiri?
Hidden? On himself?
We found it hidden in his underwear when investigating his body.
Inside?
His underwear?
His underwear. I see.
Putting the whole underwear business aside, how about we take a look at what the note says? Found a hole, like a secret path. Can see the outside. Probably a way out. Would be bad if Monokuma found out, so don't talk to anyone. Meet in the physics prep room at 6 o'clock a.m.
Ah! That's the note I was telling you about, dude! The culprit lured me out using the... hold on a second. It's not quite the same. The note I got said, "It would be bad if Monokuma found out, so don't talk to anyone. Meet in the rec room at 1 a.m.
That's right. This is a completely different note from the one you received, Hagakure.
Completely different?
What I'm saying is, in addition to Hagakure, one other person was called on by the culprit. And the other person, the one who received this note, Kiyotaka Ishimaru. Yes, it was Ishimaru. The person who received this note was the deceased, Ishimaru.
Ahem. Objection! Objection! I'm still not sure what you're getting at, but didn't you say Hiffy had that? Then that means it was Hiffy, and not Kitty, that the note was summoning.
By Kitty you mean Ishimaru, and by Hiffy you mean Yamada, right?
No shit, Sherlock! You don't need to explain every little thing.
Wow,
Yikes.
really?
Genocider can be downright terrifying, but I can't back down.
Hiffy had the note, didn't he? Then that note is obviously meant for Hiffy.
Think back on the contents of the note. What time did the note specify they meet?
6 in the morning.
Who cares what the time said? That has nothing to do with Kitty.
Not so fast, Genocider. No, they are connected.
Huh? What you yammering on about, kid?
The meeting time mentioned in this note is 6 o'clock a.m., which is the same time Ishimaru was killed, as his wristwatch showed us. And that's not all. There's also the meeting place specified in the note, the physics prep room.
Yes, that was where Ishimaru was murdered.
In other words, Ishimaru was killed at the time and in the place given in this note. Isn't that sufficient evidence that Ishimaru was the intended recipient of this note?
I see. Well, if that's how it is, no objections.
So Ish was deceived by that note, just like me. What a abhorrent, cold-hearted, abominably inhuman dude, luring us out with the temptation of outside.
But hold on. Why did Yamada have the note if Ishimaru was the recipient?
And in his undies.
That has to be because Yamada pried it from Ishimaru's dead hands.
What? He took it?
And what evidence do you have of this? Go on, say it!
The evidence showing Yamada took the note from Ishimaru after his death. That's gotta be it! When Kirigiri and I were investigating Ishimaru's body, we found a scrap of paper clenched in his hand. If my suspicions are correct, then the torn part of the scrap paper, just as I thought, it matches the note Yamada had.
Then the scrap of paper Ishimaru was holding on to, and the note Yamada was hiding.
Exactly. They're both the same sheet of paper.
Ishimaru held a fragment of the note he supposedly received, while Yamada possessed the remainder. There's only one way to explain this situation.
Ishimaru died with the note held tight in his hand. Yamada, attempting to rob him of it, mistakenly left a corner of the page in Ishimaru's grip. Is that what you're suggesting?
In which case, that means Yamada knew the note was an important piece of evidence.
Yes. And that in itself is evidence of Yamada's involvement.
The stars are aligned, dude. There's no question. Yams was inextricably involved in this incident. In essence, Yams is alive, right now! And he's the culprit,
No,
dude!
that can't be. Yamada was definitely dead when we found him in the art storage room. The second corpse discovery announcement we heard serves as the testament to that.
Then, who killed Yamada?
The true culprit.
He was likely murdered where we found their bodies, in the art storage room, just after moving Ishimaru.
Then he was murdered in the span of time between Ishimaru's disappearance and when we found
At the time,
bodies.
we had all split up to search for the missing corpses. Which is to say, nobody has an alibi for Yamada's murder.
But me and Sakura were together!
Have a little shame, would ya, you fatuous whale?
Who are you calling a fat whale?
Anywho, dudes, yeah, the time of death is an issue, but we got an even bigger problem than that!
An even bigger problem, you say?
What kind of weapon was used to kill Yams?
Weapon.
I mean, look at what the Monokuma file said. Ish and Yams had their heads split open in a similar way, with similar weapons. But dude, just as hammers 3 and 4 were left in the infirmary and physics prep room, you know? If Yams was killed in the art storage room, wouldn't that mean the culprit went back and got one of those hammers off Yams and returned the hammer to the room it came from? That sounds too risky, don't it?
Now there's a surprise. You've actually got something other than air in that dumbass skull of yours.
I'll have you know it's packed to the brim with air, dude.
Hagakure is correct. That does indeed pose a problem. The Monokuma file says the two of them were killed with similar weapons. But hammers 3 and 4 remained in the rooms they were originally found.
Then how do you propose the culprit went about carrying off one of the hammers? I can't even imagine a possibility.
Then what about Justice Hammers 1 or 2? The ones used to attack Celes and Yamada.
They, too, remain in the rooms we found them. And anyway, they don't look like they had lethal force.
Then...
Isn't it possible that something else was used as the murder weapon?
There's no way it could have been anything else. They were killed with similar weapons.
In which case, what was the weapon used to murder Yamada?
Unless we can figure out what was actually used to kill Yamada, we'll never be able to reach the truth behind these crimes. So I've got to do whatever I can to answer that question.
Was the weapon Justice Hammer number 3 or Justice Hammer number 4?
In either case, how did the culprit manage to bring his chosen weapon to the scene? Furthermore, to do so without being seen.
Presenting Justice Hammer number 5. Please see our website for more info.
Anywho, all we figured out is one of the two hammers was the murder weapon.
Then how about this? Their murder weapon wasn't a justice hammer, but some other weapon.
But what other weapon?
The hammer in the art storage room. Couldn't the culprit have used one of them? Plus, all the hammers in the art storage room were covered in bits of stone and dust, except for one, which, for some reason, had been washed.
It was washed?
I'm certain that the hammer was washed because it was a true weapon used to kill Yamada. The culprit took the time to wash the hammer to get rid of the blood that had gotten on it. On top of that, there's an array of hammers of all sizes hanging on the wall in the art storage room. And several of those hammers were missing. Couldn't the justice hammers themselves have been made using those hammers as a base?
If so, it satisfies the condition that they were killed with similar weapons.
Just after bringing Ishimaru's body to the art storage room, Yamada was killed with one of those hammers.
And the true culprit, the person who made Yamada their accomplice and then betrayed him, did it.
No, just hold on a minute. We already discussed this. An accomplice has nothing to gain given the rules set concerning graduation from the academy. In other words, it's not possible there was an accomplice, and you should perish the thought.
Accomplices are out of the question. She's right. That should have been the case. It should have been. But...
according to the rules, when a collaborative crime is committed, only the person who performs the murder can make it out alive, which means there is no chance of there being an accomplice.
Indeed, you are correct.
But that assumes only one crime took place. In this case, 2 crimes occurred.
Celes says it's not possible there was an accomplice.
According to the rules, when a collaborative crime is committed, only the person who performs the murder can make it out alive, which means there is no chance of there being an accomplice.
What about 2 crimes? But 2 separate crimes occurred. So does it really count as a collaborative effort?
What do you mean by that?
Naturally, having an accomplice is only out of the question in the case of there being a single crime. One murder can save only one person. By adding an accomplice, you throw the scales off balance.
Throw the scales off balance?
It's a matter of risk versus reward. In other words, the remuneration must be enough to offset the danger. There's no point in co-conspiring a murder if you too won't be saved. On the other hand, if you balance the scales, it's not impossible to form a mutually beneficial partnership.
2 culprits, committing 2 separate murders, assisting each other in their respective crimes.
The true culprit proposed this plan to Yamada in order to gain his cooperation in their crime. Most likely, Yamada was the one who killed Ishimaru. By committing this murder, Yamada lost his escape route and was forced to help the culprit commit
In
theirs.
short, what happens if he wasn't a serial murder at the hands of a single culprit, but 2 separate murders by 2 separate culprits? And the fact that it was made to look like a serial murder was all misdirection by the culprits. The disguised madman, the similar murder weapons, the body's disappearance. By giving them these commonalities, the culprit made it seem as though only one crime had taken place.
The culprit proposed this plan, secured his accomplice's cooperation, and in the end, eliminated his biggest obstacle to his own success by murdering that accomplice. Which means betraying Yamada was part of the plan from the get-go.
What the heck? That's the most despicable thing I've ever heard!
Really? I think it was a fairly solid plan. Well, aside from the choice of accomplice.
The most important characteristic of this incident was the fact that 2 crimes were disguised as one. And I'm almost positive Kirigiri had that figured out from the very beginning. And that's why she told us to think of the murders as separate incidents, and not a serial murder. You're outstanding, Kirigiri. Maybe a little too much so. Almost unbelievably so.
I accept the existence of an accomplice. Now the question begs, who was the one manipulating Yamada?